We are Ben and MP, and this is Sailing Yabá, where we get to share a dream boat being rebuilt.
Thanks to simple tools, ancient knowledge, and an amazing team of carpenters, our once wrecked schooner is being brought back to life. So before we actually continue doing any more of the columns for the inside bulkheads, we need to know where we're going to place some of the doors or entrances to rooms. And as we still have all the doors and the frames of the doors from the boat before it was being rebuilt, we want to see if we can actually use them again, because that would be very nice. So we're actually going to go over all the doors we have here in the workshop from previously and see which ones could fit where, which ones need to be redone because not all of them are in a very good state, and which ones are worth being redone. So it would be cool to get them all back in and have some nice boaty doors instead of anything else. So that's the next step. As we're doing this, lots of these columns are being moved around as we're realizing some things might need more space than others. And this one over here that's just been measured, which is going to be the corner of the port side head. Now, as we move the wall slightly more towards this side of that fat column over there, this angle over here has changed. So Nerzo had actually already made the column, two columns that fit together nicely to make this corner already, but as this has changed, this one's had to go down again, had to be planed into the right angle, and it's going to be placed here again. So that's what's happening the whole time. Looks like a simple job, but once it's all up, stuff all has to be moved around. Also, I don't know if you noticed, none of these are actually fastened in properly, as they're all these nails have been left out a bit so you can move around all these columns if necessary. So now they're actually going to start building the horizontal little supports that go in between them so we can help hold them all together, and also to put the plywood on. So that's going to happen over here. So I was trying to show you which poles or which columns were being put up, but no matter how much I film something now, you just see a bunch of columns. So I hope you can figure out what's being done. Either way, it's all taking place now. I think there's 2 more to go, and then we can start looking at where the ballast and the water tanks are going to go, because we might want to use some water tanks as ballast, like reserve water tanks, stuff like that. Either way, we're going to check that out before we put any flooring down or any of the plywood or whatever we're going to use for the walls or the inner bulkheads. So far it's just looking like a bunch of rooms, if you can improvise very well. If you can see, there's some little purple heart battens that go across, which are actually showing which ones are going to be closed walls and which ones are going to be open. So the last columns that are actually going in are the ones that are going to go on the sides of the doors to support them. So the doors are the ones we're going to use, the old doors, and we had to measure them before we could put these last columns in. Já saiu. So another 3 jobs are going on at the moment. So over there, they're actually drilling some of the drainage holes through the cover board, because you don't want to have these huge gaps cut out of them to let water out. So we're having 3-inch holes drilled through them at an angle, so at an angle with the boat, so when it does have rainwater or salt water on the boat, it kind of doesn't have to make a right angle to leave the boat. It kind of just follows, and we're going to make enough of them for it to come out. Also inside the boat, they're busy making some more of the horizontal frame structure to hold the bulkheads up, which are going to connect the vertical columns. I've got lots of sawdust in my mouth right now because I blew all the sawdust out of the holes. And then we've got one more job that's going to be done. Is all this is being caulked at the moment. This actually already has the caulking cotton in, this one doesn't. So I'm going to head over to the shop now to go and get some more caulking cotton, and then we can chuck some Sikaflex on top of this. I think one of the next steps will be caulking the deck, which would be cool because it wouldn't get wet inside anymore. Ah, tem esse aqui também, é bom para...
Ah, para limpar, hein?
And another job to add to the list is covering all these holes with this epoxy putty, which I've already gotten myself dirty. So this bulwark is made with holes on top of the coverboard to let water drain out that's on top of the coverboard. But of course the water that gets stuck on the deck can't drain out. That's what these holes have been made for. They look quite messy right now. They're at an angle, so they are like this. So the water runs down and into these holes and they come out here. So they are quite big. It's 3/4 of an inch, and I just realized there's a crack in the screen protector in the GoPro. So maybe you'll see a crack in there, hope not. Anyway, there's a 3/4 inch in here. We've made a few along, I think 3 along the hull. Of course, we can add some more later, even on the water if necessary. So I think this is quite cool, because the other plan was to like cut a little, like this deep, like a whole chunk out of this coverboard, which would have made it look less sleek. And 3/4 of an inch to me does seem quite a big hole, so I think that'll be fine. We can always add more, we can make them bigger and so on, but for now we're starting with this. On the other side over here, like I said, it is quite messy still, but Nez is gonna go and get his chisel and make it look nice, as he always does. So Woody Woodpecker's almost finished with the caulking of all these columns along the sides of the boat on top of the coverboard. We call him Woody Woodpecker because everyone does here. Pick up out because tuck tuck tuck. So I've got this epoxy, the caulking epoxy that I'm going to lay on top of all the caulking that he's done. Now it's a 50-50 portion. There's a little kind of board that I'm going to use to put it on, but first I'm going to clean it with ethanol, which our friends from Silvedo next door told us to do before, so we can clean it properly, and then we'll let that dry before it rains or gets dusty again. So all these forward cabezas are now finished. I've still got to do all the ones at the stern, at the transom, and those tall ones next to the pilot house. Now the problem is I'm not being able to film everything for you guys because the caulker has actually just finished caulking the tall cabezas, while inside they're still making all these horizontal slats to hold the plywood up later. Now I will be sure to film a lot of that. This epoxy putty, this caulking putty, has to go on before the end of the day because we can't let it get any dirt or rain on this caulking cotton. So when that's finished, I'll head in and I'll show you guys what it looks like. Even I don't know, so it's going to be a surprise for both of us. So the interior walls or the frames are still being made. Now that's being done while actually Woody Woodpecker is caulking the deck, which is a very cool thing because water won't get in anymore. But we have recently decided not to use a black polyurethane to cover the seams or to cover the caulking, but to use a black epoxy instead, which is something we don't have and we have to get made. So I'm running around now going to different places trying to find this black epoxy. I hope it doesn't rain today or tomorrow. I am going to put a tarp over the top anyway, just in case it rains. I don't want any of the caulking to get wet. So yeah, he'll continue caulking, they'll continue making the interior of the boat, the walls, and then I will go and find myself some of that black epoxy. Now, I've already got a contact of someone who's going to get back to me and probably make it on demand. So let's see if we can keep this caulking dry, because that would be super annoying if we messed that up already. So we've decided to only caulk this bow locker, as it's the only closed room, so at least we won't let any more rain in it, won't get as humid inside. During the day we can open the hatch. So I'm going to put a one thread everywhere. So we'll put a tarp on top of it, and when the epoxy compound, the caulking compound arrives, we'll go over it with another thread, and then I can go over it straight away with the compound, and I'll see if I can give this a go. I'm sure it'll be fine. Inside, it's gonna have to be left behind again. We've got to turn these into those, and then into those. So MP's dad, Orlando, has done a few already, but I'm gonna start doing some as well. Let's see if they can look anything like his. I think we've got like 30 to do in total, and we've got maybe 12, 11 now. So they're going on top of the bulwark, or they're going to be part of the bulwark, and that's going to be one of the next steps if the wood arrives maybe in a few days. So that's one of them that I've done in about an hour with preparation. There's a lot more to do. All these, all those. So as you can see, there is a lot more to do. I'll go and have a look inside to show you what's going on over here, just to let you know where those columns are going. They're going to sit on top of this grey kind of board, and it's going to go as high as where it raises up there, and then there's going to be another thick board like this cover board on top of those columns as well. So that's the plan. Having a look inside, these are still going in. They're also being fastened now. We're quite sure what we need to be able to remove later to put the ballast in. So that's also taking place. I'm gonna go and get a drink because that sawdust makes me very thirsty. And then the next step is to make some more of those columns for over here on the top, on the deck. What's this? Huh? Come then. Come. Come on. Come. Come on. A few more. Come on. Come on. Hey. Hey.
Oh yeah, stop going to be red.
All these are in place now, and the vertical ones as well. Now the only thing that still has to be done is we want the wall to continue behind these columns up to the pole. So for now, all these other little frames are being made so we can fasten the plywood onto it, and we can of course put some privacy between the rooms, or just divide the rooms properly all the way to the lateral sides of the boat, and not just up to where the height of the windows. Still need to be careful, we don't have a floor yet.
While the works continue here at the boat, we're also working on other stuff. So for now I'm waiting for the mechanic so I can go meet him and we can continue working on the engine. But Ben is working on something else, and that's what I'm gonna show you right now.
Still going, still got about 1,000 to do.
This here is the shape we're copying. This is the one he's making. Those are the ones that are ready. There are some other there in the container. And those are the ones to go. Yay!
So this has all been done so far. I haven't been able to film it all because there's so much going on, including the camera lady at the moment who just came back from the engine. I've just come back from turning, but this is more and more taking shape. So we started off with the vertical columns, then the roof columns got put in, then now the floor columns went in, and now they're actually working on the ones that are somewhere in the middle, which is what the walls or the double bulkheads are going to be fastened onto. Nothing is permanent still. It's quite permanent because I don't think I even bother to move it after all this is done, but it's not been nailed or fastened in properly yet, so we can move stuff around if we want to. I hope you enjoy this, and pick a room. Which one's yours? That one here? Could be in the head. I'm standing in the cabin now. There's another cabin over there, which is an ensuite for me, and MP, the doggy on the floor. And yep, so that's it. More and more it's looking like a livable place. Oh, this is exactly where the bed's gonna be. To be a bit more comfortable than this.
Bye!
It's actually quite good.
Good night! Come for the family selfie. Yay. Smile. Cheese.
Say cheese, Caio.
Got a little emotional looking at this because it's really taking shape and it's really starting to look like a home. This is like such a dream coming true to me. Can believe it.
Thank you so much, Ina, Bill, Richard, David, James, Michael, Juan and Edith, John and Carla for joining us on Patron. I hope you have a great new year.